Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax. We hope you enjoy this sermon from a recent Sunday worship service.
I'm Reverend Christin Green, the Assistant Minister for Congregational Life here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm delighted to be with you all today to explore and just to be together. Worship is a time for us to lift up things of worth together and examine them for value. What are our values as people of faith? Do we have the vocabulary to articulate our values? I believe we can work on this together. Black History Month each February is also an opportunity for us to examine our culture and what we value as an American people. Black History Month itself has only been celebrated officially since the 70s. It still means that those on the sidelines are brought into the forefront, which tells us something about the state of equality, equity, and justice. We have work to do, but I believe that we can work toward this together. I'm so glad you chose to worship with us this morning online or in person. It is good to be together. So we're going to explore all together. So I'll need some props, and later on I'll need some volunteers. So start thinking if you're willing to volunteer and help us demonstrate an illustration that will help us understand the difference between equity, equality, and justice. But the first part is the prop. I need a fence. So thank you. We've got a fence that we're going to bring up onto the stage. A barrier. Thank you, Reverend David and Diana. The fence represents the system, the obstacles that are in our way on the road to justice or even liberty or basic human rights. We may have large or small barriers in front of us. Some things might be movable and other things not. Some things we may be able to overcome and others may not. Some barriers may have other barriers hidden behind them. Either way, there's a problem that's barring or preventing access to that other side. So I want you to think about difficulties that you might have. What might be difficult, make it difficult for you to get things that you need? Maybe your age makes it difficult. Maybe you're too young for things. Your abilities, your size, your gender, anything that makes you different might make it difficult. I wonder if you think about those around you in this space and what barriers they have, what difficulties they face. And what about the folks that just left our hypothermia prevention shelter this morning? What barriers and obstacles do they have? They've stayed with us for 1 week, but what are they up against? I want you to ponder these things as we enter into our time of worship together today. And ponder them with the openness of your heart to explore and digest. So now that we have a prop, the first part of our demonstration has to include a picture of reality of us with the reality of the fence or the system. So I need Reverend David's help to gather 3 willing volunteers of different heights to come up to our fence. Turn his mic on.
Well, we just need 3. You're coming
So, when we stand up here,
are we moving the wall?
Let's move the wall so everybody can see. Let's move it like sideways, yeah? And on the stage. Yes. And so you're over there. Why don't you get over there too, over on this other side. And you can see over the fence, and your tall sloth in a trench coat can see over the fence. And you can see over the fence.
Get in the middle.
So organize yourself according to height. Perfect. And you can't see over the fence at all. You don't have a chance. So this is reality. We're stacked according to differences. But equality is when we give the same help to everyone. So do we have similar help that we could give to everyone and see what that looks like? Thank you, Miss Diana and Reverend David, for helping this demonstration. All right. So our new reality is that the tallest people can still see even better. The middle person can definitely see even better. And our shortest person still can't see over the fence. Because the equal help didn't take into consideration the differences. Thank you, volunteers. I'm going to ask you to be seated. And thank you, Miss Diana and Reverend David. They deserve a round of applause. Equality is one of the central principles of democracy. And it's based on the belief that all people should have the same opportunities to be successful and have productive, enjoyable life. Equality is rooted in fairness. That's fair, since it's linked to another American ideal, that is of meritocracy. That's the idea that equality is based on whether you are good or better or best or bad. It's based on merit. The idea of equality is key to the notion that everyone will be able to achieve based on their efforts and contributions to society instead of their position or status. Equality was particularly important during the civil rights era when non-whites didn't have equal standing or treatment before the law. Most recently, there has been a debate about whether equality is enough or whether equity is a more important principle. That's what we're exploring here today. Is equality enough? Keep pondering these things as we continue on this journey together today. All right, let's get our willing volunteers back up here and bring the fence back up here to continue exploring the difference between these things that we are finally coming together. Thank you, volunteers. Yeah. So last time, we gave everybody the same thing, and that's what? Equality. But with equity, what if we gave each person a step stool according to their difference instead of ignoring those differences? So we've got a medium size, we've got a large size, we've got a spotter. And yes, the idea is yes. So everybody can see over the fence. So each person has the help that they uniquely need to be able to see over this proverbial fence. But before we ask our volunteers to sit down, I want us to dig just a little bit deeper. But what if we didn't just give people better tools and better access? What if we actually went to this fence and tried to figure out why it was there in the first place? And maybe dismantle the fence altogether. Do you think we should take it down? Take down that fence. So now there's no barriers, and we don't need these extra tools, although the tools might help them later. So we want to allow them to have the tools. But liberation, that was justice, maybe. Taking down the fence. Liberation might be that they don't need to stand outside anything. They have a seat in the audience. They have a seat at the table. So I think we should welcome our volunteers back to their assigned seats. Thank you. Equity means everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. And equity recognizes that everyone doesn't begin in the same place in society. Some people face adverse conditions and circumstances, making it more challenging with the same effort to achieve the same goals. Equity advocates for those who may have been historically disadvantaged, making it difficult for them to be successful. What is fair as it relates to equity isn't a question of what is the same, but rather the point from which a person begins. Equity takes into account historical and other factors in determining what is fair. But justice means that we take a look at this system and see what might be there to work through. Not just to tinker with and to adjust and reframe, but sometimes these systems actually need to be taken down completely and dismantled, and then put back together in different ways with different tools. For example, taking down the fence entirely might not be an option. Maybe a chain link fence that people could see through would be an option. But really, liberation is what we're trying to get through to. And that's where there's no fence at all to wrestle with. And everyone is welcome in the stands or the audience at the event where there used to be a fence separating the haves and the have-nots. If it wasn't already abundantly clear, I think we have a graphic to illustrate our point one last time. Reality looks like people gathered at the fence. And our reality here at UUCF includes folks of different abilities, different heights, different skin colors, different socioeconomic status, different ages, so many differences. And there are some here who would even have to roll up to the fence and wouldn't get any use from a stepladder at all. But how do we as individuals and as a community at UUCF enact equity or justice? Thank you for this graphic. One seemingly small example is called the Platinum Rule. The Platinum Rule is built off of the Golden Rule, which used to say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The Platinum Rule says, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So it takes into account what the other person wants and needs, not just what you would prefer or think is best. It considers equity, not simply equality. And it also, for me, enacts justice. That whole do unto others thing. Justice, as Dr. Cornel West states, is love in public. Justice is when we do unto others what they would have us do unto them, and we spread love in public. Adam Grant writes about the difference between pessimism, optimism, responsibility, and initiative. And they all recognize that we have a problem, but some of these are better at approach than others. It's more helpful vocabulary as we begin to articulate our values. The pessimist says, we have a problem, but we can't solve it. The optimist says, we have a problem and we can solve it. Responsibility says, we have a problem, can I help solve it? And initiative says, we have a problem and here's how I'm solving it. What role will you choose? How will you choose to show up in our collective future? What energy will you bring? Adrienne Marie Brown often writes about how everything is connected. The soil needs rain, organic matter, air, and worms, and life in order to do what it needs to do, to give and receive life. Each element is an essential component. Organizing takes humility, selflessness, and patience, and rhythm, while our ultimate goal of liberation will take many expert components. Some of us build and fight for land, healthy bodies, healthy relationships, clean air, water, homes, safety, dignity, and humanizing education. Others of us fight for food and political prisoners and abolition and environmental justice. Our work is intersectional and multifaceted. Nature teaches us that our work has to be nuanced and steadfast, and more than anything, that we need each other at our highest natural glory to get free. We are not only responsible for ourselves, but we hold each other's fate in the palm of our hands at times. We need each other, and we have each other. Blessed be. May it be so. And amen.
Thank you for listening to this sermon from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax. To listen to more sermon podcasts, go to uucf.org/worship-services and scroll down to sermon podcasts.